When I decided to take my daughter Emma for ice cream one afternoon, I had no idea that the trajectory of my life was about to change. I had no idea that I was about to have another person living with me. I was unassuming when we drove back home and a man who looked like he had been severely beaten up tried to stop my car. My cop instincts kicked in and I stopped the car, forgetting that I was on my off day. The man ran to my window and immediately uttered the words, "Please help me, I'm in danger." He had cuts all over his face and bruises and was as thin as a match. Terror was visible in his eyes and he could not stop shaking. I could feel the fear in his eyes, which alerted me to the fact that something was not right. My mind quickly weighed out the options. I had my 7-year-old daughter in the car. This would be disturbing for her to see. In addition, it was my off day, but that was not a problem. I knew that my job to serve and protect was never done. I needed to help this man out. "Wait here for a second," I said to him as I got out of the car. I went to the other side and got Emma out. "I will be back in less than an hour, honey," I explained to her. "I understand, Dad. Where are you taking me? To Aunt Marge?" she asked, ever so understanding. "Yes, my dear. Marge will take care of you for now. Afterwards, we are going home to have your favorite meal. I'm sorry that our day was cut short, but that man needs my help," I explained to her gently. I was relieved that she was taking this well. She had been begging me to spend a full day with her for ages, and now it was being cut short.
"Okay, Dad."
She put her hand in mine, and I took her into the shop closest to us. Because of my job, I knew nearly everyone in town and could ask anyone for help. I saw Marge standing behind the counter, and she smiled when she saw me. "I have a situation. Please take care of Emma for an hour?" I asked her.
"Of course, I would love to. Go out there and be a hero."
She winked. I felt my cheeks turn a little red when she said that and quickly turned away. I was relieved to find the man still there, waiting for me. My first thought was to get him medical attention, then I could question him. From the looks of it, something criminal had occurred and I needed to get to the bottom of it. "Sir, are you okay with me taking you to the hospital?" I asked. He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. He got into my car and I drove to the hospital. Luckily, it was not too full and I was able to get him medical attention as quickly as possible. As I waited to see him, I made some notes about the situation. He appeared to recently have had an altercation with someone and now he was injured. Whether he committed a crime or not was to be determined. Maybe he was a pickpocket who got caught. I checked in on Emma while I waited. "Hi, is my little princess behaving?" I texted Marge.
"She's the epitome of perfect. She's helping me out in the store and hasn't asked for you yet,"
Marge responded. "Thanks, I owe you." I responded and switched off my phone. Right then, a nurse approached me.
"Sir, you can see the patient now,"
she said and led the way. We walked down the familiar halls where I spent nearly the same time as my job. He was lying awake on the bed when I entered the room. His expression was blank and he appeared to be lost in his own world. They had done a very good job patching him up at least, and I hoped that he was not in pain. I sat next to him and greeted him. "Hi, I am Vincent and I am the officer of the law. How are you feeling?" I asked. Suddenly, his body stiffened and he looked at me with panic on his face.
"Is Reggie here? Please do not allow him to see me."
His voice cracked and he sounded very scared. "I do not know who that is. No one has come to see you yet. How old are you? Do you have any family that I can contact?" I probed.
"I am 24 and no, I just don't want to see my family right now. Thank you for helping me. I'm fine now."
He dismissed me. "I wish it could be that easy, but I need to know what happened. Who did this to you?" I asked.
"Would you believe me if I said I walked into a door?"
His voice was hoarse but humorous. I suddenly understood exactly what had happened. I had dealt with enough abuse victims to know that he was in danger and needed my help. "Tell me who did this to you and I will make sure that they are arrested and paid for their crimes," I urged him.
"It does not matter. Nothing matters. At least I got away alive. Nothing anyone has done has ever helped me,"
he informed me sadly. He sounded so defeated and done. It infuriated me that someone had broken his spirit like that. It took me back to how my wife emotionally broke me before she divorced me. She cheated on me with anyone she could find and made me the laughingstock of the whole town. I took her back many times and hid her infidelity from anyone who asked, but inside I was slowly being eaten up. The worst part was the emotional abuse I suffered and being told that I was not good enough each time I confronted her. I might have looked fine on the outside, but internally I was wounded. This man had the same look of brokenness on him. Someone he loved had betrayed him. "I will be back tomorrow to check on you. I must fetch my daughter and take her home," I informed him.
Of course. Thank you, Vincent.
He managed a wry smile. "Your name is?" I asked as I took out my notebook.
I am Austin,
he informed me. I jotted that down and left to fetch my daughter. I could not stop thinking about Austin that day. I wondered what could have happened to him to be so apathetic. I hoped that tomorrow he would talk and I could apprehend someone. The next day, I managed to get time to see Austin in the afternoon. I was happy to learn that he stayed overnight and was still at the hospital. In the past, I had people running away from the hospital. The fact that he stayed meant that he did nothing wrong. He was most likely the victim of whatever had occurred. He looked much better and well rested when I entered the room. He was doodling on a sketch pad, lost in his own world. "You look much better than yesterday," I commented. He grinned as he looked at me and said, "Good to see you, officer. I do feel slightly better. At least I'm not on the verge of death." "Good to know, because you and I have a lot to discuss," I began. "I know what you're going to say, so before you say it, let me just tell you that I do not want to press charges. I want to forget what happened in my past. I have no intention of going back there ever again," he said sternly. "I see. There's nothing I can do to force you to tell me what happened. But be careful when withholding information from me. If you are hiding a crime that you committed, then pray that I don't find out," I warned him. Austin shook his head and continued. "I have done nothing wrong. I'm in this situation because I failed to leave when I had the chance. Now that I have left, I'm never going back again." "I'm happy that you managed to leave. It is not that easy," I commented as I wrote more notes. "I hope this time I stay away. I always end up going back. I'm so pathetic." Tears welled in his eyes, and I was touched. "I know what that feels like. You are not pathetic. The person who did this to you is." I briefly touched his hand for support. He flinched for a second, but then he relaxed. "So where to from now on?" I asked. "Honestly, I do not know. I have nothing to my name. I guess I have to focus on getting better and look for a job," Austin responded. "Do you have any friends or family I could call for you?" I asked, concerned. Austin smiled sadly and said, "No, I have no one. My boyfriend is the reason I am here, and I cut off contact with my family. I'll have to figure this one out on my own." "Well, I do know some shelters that you could look at. Let me pull some strings and see if I can get you into a shelter." "Thank you. You are the kindest person I've met in a long time." A hint of light flickered in Austin's eyes. I left him with the promise that I would come back later on. When I went back to work, I tried to find him to no avail. His name and surname brought up his record, which was clean. In fact, there was no record of him having been enrolled in a high school or having worked anywhere. The fact that he had no record was actually suspicious. I resolved to look as deeply as possible into this case. I would not forgive myself if there was something that was missing. After a while, I decided to leave the task for another time. Instead, I focused my efforts on finding him a shelter. Unfortunately, most shelters were full, and the ones that had space were in a dangerous part of the town. Due to his condition, I did not think that they would have been suitable. My head started to work as I thought of a suitable solution to this problem. And then I had a crazy idea. What if he stayed with me until he got back on his feet? I had a spacious house and lived not far from the hospital. He could easily heal and start over his life. I was quite certain that he would not have to stay for that long. I also grappled with the fact that I saw a bit of myself in him. He had that rawness of a heartbroken man, and I felt pity for him. As a queer man, alone in the city, he would probably not make it. Maybe his family had kicked him out because of that. My first boyfriend, Andre, told me that it usually happened. I was extremely lucky because I came out as bi in high school in a liberal family. My ex-wife, with all of her faults, was one of the few girls who do not immediately form an aversion to me because of my sexuality. Austin needed support as a victim of domestic violence and a queer man, and I felt a tug toward him. I had helped many people before, but his case was different. Despite the obvious reasons, I had to find out why. Of course, there was the question of how Emma would take it. Emma was always kind to anyone who had to stay at our house. This situation had occurred a few times before. Each time she was kind to whoever had spent the night. The more I thought about this idea, the more convinced I was that it was going to work. So after work, I visited him. I have bad news. All good home shelters seem to be full right now. I broke the news to him.
Oh,
He barely whispered. But I was thinking maybe I actually just wanted to offer my home to you until you were fully recovered. It is, of course, up to you to accept. I said in a single breath. His eyes widened and then he started thanking me nonstop.
thank you so much, sir. You are too kind. I wish there was a way for me to repay you. I promise I will once I find a job,
He exclaimed. Do not worry about it. You seem like a good guy who's just had a tough life. I hope that one day you will be able to deal with what plagues you. I consoled him.
Thank you for understanding,
He said gratefully. 2 weeks later. As I predicted, Emma had no problem with Austin moving in. I explained to Emma that Austin was a friend who needed a place to stay for a couple of weeks. I also told her that he had been in an accident, thus he was still unwell. She was gracious and welcomed him to our home. I could tell that she was a bit skeptical, so I pulled her to the side to question her. Hey, honey, is there something wrong with him that I need to know? I asked her. She shook her head and said,
No, Dad. He just looks a little scary with all the bandages. Almost like a mummy.
Well, within a few weeks, he will have the bandages off. Remember, you should let me know if you ever feel uncomfortable with him here. I reminded her. She agreed and then Austin started to stay with us. I then went back to Austin so that I would show him the spare room. There's an en-suite bathroom and another one in the hallway. Let me know if you need anything. I let him know.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it,
He answered. Oh, and this is my old phone to use in the meantime. You can also use the computer. Both are connected to the Wi-Fi. I responded. Austin took the phone and inspected it. He then frowned a little bit. Everything okay? I asked, concerned.
Nothing. Just a cute wallpaper.
His mouth went up a half smile. I grabbed the phone from him, noticing that it was a picture of me and Andre. Oh, that is my ex, I responded.
Not to be too personal, but you have a daughter.
Are you gay? He inquired. I am bi, but with the preference for men. I was married to a woman, but have not dated one since, I explained.
I have only had one boyfriend. He rescued me from my homophobic family who used to lock me up but then ended up abusing me,
Austin shared. I gasped in horror at what he had just revealed to me. I couldn't believe what kind of life he must have gone through for him to say something so horrifying, as if he was just telling me about another Tuesday. I'm so sorry. Would you like a hug? I asked. He nodded and I embraced him. I felt him melt into my hug, which brought great joy to me. I felt an overwhelming sense to protect him. He updated me on his job search every chance that he got. He was never too much of a bother and appeared to get along with my daughter very well. What I did not expect was for him and my daughter to bond so easily. As a rule, I never left them alone in the house. I would fetch my daughter from school and then she would go to her aftercare. When I came home, Austin would come out and greet us. He started cooking in the second week, citing that he was feeling much better. I think that being inactive is driving me crazy. Thus, I wanted to cook something for you. I also wanted to thank you for everything you're doing for me, he explained. This is a nice surprise. Thank you so much, I said gratefully. We dug into the food and it was extremely delicious. Afterwards, I retired to my home office to work on a case. I was interrupted by laughter coming from the living room. Curious, I peeped through the door. Austin was reading a book for Emma. He made different voices and sounds which absolutely delighted her, and she was absolutely roaring with laughter. Seeing them so happy together made me smile. It had been a while since the house was so lively. Emma usually read silently while I worked on my cases. I was often too busy to spend time with her and was always guilty about it. While I tried my hardest to be a good dad, I also had to put food on the table. I was glad that Emma was laughing and smiling and that she was getting along with Austin. With time, we settled into a routine. Austin cooked, cleaned, and looked after Emma. He did not mind helping out while he looked for a job. A month later. Austin had been with us for about a month, but it felt like longer. He had easily integrated into our family with no problem. He was incredibly helpful and supportive, which I really appreciated. I had no idea that I missed having someone else around the house until Austin came. What I liked the most about him was how he treated my daughter. He was extremely attentive and helpful towards her. Eventually, I started to leave him alone with her because I grew to trust him. This made things so much easier for me when I had to work late shifts. I would always come home to a warm meal cooked by Austin. Emma would probably already be in bed by then. Austin and I would sit and chat. One night, he revealed something about himself to me. We were talking about jobs and how difficult it was for him to find one. Unfortunately, I don't think that I will be finding one anytime soon. I feel so bad because you have been so good to me, he confessed. Why do you feel that you will not be able to find one? And do not worry about how long you stay here. You are welcome for as long as you need. I counseled him. I have not been entirely honest about my situation, he responded. He also looked like he had something that was weighing him down. I know that I'm a cop, but I wouldn't judge you for anything that you're about to tell me. I've seen firsthand that you are a good human being. I encouraged him. The truth is that I don't have a high school diploma. Right after middle school, I got homeschooled by my family. I was isolated for many years, and the situation got very bad. Austin revealed. Oh dear, I'm so sorry about that. Did you get a chance to work when you were with Reggie? I dared to ask. He hated me going out, so I did some painting commissions, but I left my things at his house. I gave him all my money since it was his house and I owed him. He sighed. Reggie seems like a person who thrives off abusing his power. A relationship should never be like that. You are an absolute pleasure to live with. What is wrong with him? I asked, incredulous. I don't know. I thought it was a normal relationship. He shrugged. Absolutely not. Love should not make you feel worthless. You deserve to be adored, Austin. The words came out on their own. The truth was that I had the urge to dote on him all the time. Emma had even noticed that I fussed over him a lot. All the people in his life had treated him so badly, and I guess I wanted to show him that he deserved utter adoration. We sat in silence after my words. A tension that was not there before was suddenly present. You are just saying that. You are just saying that. Light pink dusted his cheeks. Maybe, but I am no liar, I boldly declared. I had a feeling that I was charting into dangerous territory, but I did not care at that moment. He moved closer to me and his facial expression changed. He looked at my lips and my heart stopped. I could not help but notice the fullness of his lips and imagine how they would feel. All I had to do was lean closer. Suddenly, I coughed and looked away. Things had gotten a bit too heated too fast. It is quite cold. Let me get you some hot chocolate. He managed a small smile which made my eyes sparkle. That smile made me realize that he looked so different to the man I rescued in the street. He had managed to gain a few pounds, and his skin was much rosier. There were still shadows in his eyes, but they were not as prominent. It made me happy that he was doing so much better. No hot chocolate for me. I think I need some cold soda, I answered. He smirked but quickly got up before I could ask him what that was about. A week later, I managed to pull some strings and get him a job working for Marge. She had a lot on her plate and needed some help. It was a part-time job, so we decided that he was going to live with me for a bit longer. Since his job was part-time, he was still around the house a lot. A friendship began to bloom between us. I started to open up more to him after he told me about his past. I could just imagine the horrors that he had been through. For him to even trust a living person after that was a miracle. He and I lived in perfect harmony for weeks on end. Honestly, I didn't want it to stop. I wanted him to live with us for a very long time. He brought life into the house which was previously not there. Ever since my wife left, the house had taken on a monochrome look. He made the house colorful. Literally. He found some paints in the garage and asked if he can do some art, and I allowed him. He and Emma would spend hours in the garage painting. I did not intrude on them, so I usually left them to their own devices. When they finally let me see their paintings, I was in awe. Of course, I adored my daughter's paintings, but Austin's took my breath away. I had seen his sketches, which clearly showed his talent, and even then, I was extremely impressed. Seeing the outcome of hours of work was different. His art touched a part of me. I had never been one of those people who understand art and all the feelings it invokes, but trust me, his art made me feel something. I saw the deep emotions he released onto the canvas. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I think I stared at his work in too much silence because he interrupted my thoughts. What do you think? He asked in a shy manner. You are extremely talented. I cannot take my eyes off this work. Both of you did very well. I beamed. Emma smiled, showing all her teeth, and said,
I learned so much from Austin. He says that one day I will be able to be as good as him.
You will be able to, sweetheart. Austin, thank you for keeping her busy. I have been working on a case of theft, and it has been so complicated. I explained.
Anything for you. You practically saved me.
He responded.
Dad, I think my favorite show is on. I'm going back inside,
Emma suddenly said. I checked the time, noting that her favorite show was not about to start for another 10 minutes. Before I could protest, she was gone. She probably wants to get on that short video app that youngsters are so obsessed with lately. I chuckled.
Probably. I listed one of my paintings online. Let me show you.
Austin said excitedly as he made his way to the back of the garage. He was there for quite a while, so I checked out some of the canvases. As I was doing so, a similar canvas that was slightly out of view caught my eye. I carefully brought it out and gasped. At that moment, he appeared. I stood, transfixed by the painting in front of me. He had drawn me shirtless. His artistic talent shined through even in this painting, and I was struck by his attention to detail. What made me also catch my breath was how he even got the tiny scar I had on my lower torso right.
I'm so sorry, you were not supposed to see that.
He immediately started mumbling. I kept a very straight face as I approached him. Are you sure it was unintentional? It all looks so precise. I responded. He became a stuttering mess as he tried to explain himself.
I saw you get out of the pool the other day, and I guess I admired your work routine?
He squirmed a little bit. I'm flattered. I have never been amused before. Let me know if you ever need me to pose for you, I said, lightly amused. He could not even look at me, which I found incredibly cute. It appeared that I was not the only one struggling with this tension between us. It pleased me a bit too much.
Anyways, here's what I wanted to show you.
He promptly changed the subject. Later that evening, I woke up in the middle of the night to get some water, and I found Austin sitting in the kitchen. He was shaking uncontrollably and curled up in a ball. I approached him quietly and asked, Hey, are you okay? He looked up and I saw the terror in his eyes. He continued shaking but did not speak. Nightmare? I asked, and he nodded. Want me to stay up with you? I can make us some tea, I offered. He agreed, and I made some tea for us. After a while of sipping the tea in silence, he finally spoke.
Thanks for the tea. I feel better now.
He smiled. I would hope so. I am here if you need anything, I reassured him. Suddenly, he moved closer to me and gave me a look that I have not seen in a long time. Feelings I thought were dormant suddenly came back to life. I had been trying to avoid getting so close to him after the way his proximity had started to affect me. I had been noticing my growing attraction to him over the past few months and trying by all means to curb it. I was too afraid to fall. He gave me a small peck, then retreated like a scared mouse. I stared at him in shock, struggling to process this. "Oh, no, I'm sorry. I misunderstood how nice you were to me. I should have never done that. Sorry, I made a mess." He suddenly panicked. His hands were flaring and his eyes were bugging out of his head, and all I wanted to do was process this. He was gone in seconds and I heard his bedroom door shut. The next morning, when I woke up, he had gone to work. He was also offline when I asked him if he wanted to join me for lunch as usual. I got dressed and went to work, but my mind was on him. Everything was piling up on me and I could not stop thinking about him. I could not help wishing that the kiss had gone somewhere. I needed to talk to him about it when I got home. 3 days later, Austin managed to evade me for 3 whole days, and I was pretty sure that I had done something wrong. The only time I saw him was when he spent time with Emma. He was so good with her that even that was attractive. It was not just about the physical attraction. I planned to tell him that I liked him, but each time he avoided me. My troubles did not stop there because finally, after a whole 3 days, he came into my office. "Hey, can we talk?" he asked. "Of course. What is happening?" I asked, concerned. "I'm moving out soon. You have been more than hospitable towards me, and I'm back on my feet." He smiled. "Are you sure? We don't mind you staying for longer. Emma enjoys having you here," I protested. "Yes, but I do not want to make you feel uncomfortable. I should have not kissed you, especially knowing that you are attracted to Marge." He looked down. "Now, where did you get that?" "Marge is a friend. I do not see her that way." I shook my head. "She would make more sense for you. She is well established, kind, and would be a good mom to Emma," he argued. "No, you are not going to look me in the eyes and do that to me." My voice raised slightly. "But it is the truth," he insisted. "You do not get to tell me who I should like. I like you because you are delicately beautiful. You make me feel happy. You love my daughter, and I've been waiting for that kiss for ages. I thought you felt the same way, but then you just went cold on me," I declared. I said so much that I became breathless. "You deserve more than me. I'm broken and worthless." He looked so sad. I took a step toward him and held his face in place. "You are worth everything to me. Anyone who says otherwise will have to go through me," I said strongly. He looked at me for a bit and then he finally kissed me. This time it was much longer and passionate. It was way overdue. "My lovely Austin, will you go on a date with me?" I asked him, barely able to control my happiness. "Yes," he blushed. Conclusion. He stayed with me and we started to get to know each other on a deeper level. Each step felt so right and natural. We had some challenges in the beginning due to his relationship trauma, but he ended up going to therapy. Most of the people around us already knew that we were together, so it did not come off as too much of a shock. Shortly after, I proposed and we got married. It felt right since he bonded with my daughter already. Have you ever tried dating after being divorced? Did it go well? The end. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to become a part of our Rainbow Force. And feel free to go and check out our Ko-Fi page. Stay wholesome.